Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Where does a thought go when it's forgotten? A woman should soften but not weaken a man. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. It is that we are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, never so helplessly unhappy as when we have lost our loved object or its love. Religion is an attempt to get control over the sensory world, in which we are placed, by means of the wish world, which we have developed inside us as a result of biological and psychological necessities. When making a decision of minor importance, I have always found it advantageous to consider all the pros and cons. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. The ego is not master in its own house. Where ID was, there ego shall be. It is easy to see that the ego is that part of the ID which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. Analysis does not set out to make pathological reactions impossible, but to give the patient's ego freedom to decide one way or another. The functional importance of the ego is manifested in the fact that normally control over the approaches to motility devolves upon it. At the height of being in love, the boundary between ego and object threatens to melt away. There is no doubt that the resistance of the conscious and unconscious ego operates under the sway of the pleasure principle. The ego represents what we call reason and sanity, in contrast to the ID which contains the passions. Neurosis is the result of a conflict between the ego and its ID. The ego feeling we are aware of now is thus only a shrunken vestige of a far more extensive feeling. The ego is first and foremost a bodily ego. It is not merely a surface entity, but is itself the projection of a surface. Everyone has wishes which he would not like to tell to others, which he does not want to admit even to himself. Dreams may be thus stated. They are concealed realizations of repressed desires. Dreams with a painful content are to be analyzed as the fulfillments of wishes. The dream is a sort of substitution for those emotional and intellectual trains of thought. Self-deception is a plant which withers fast in the pellucid atmosphere of dream investigation. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, make sure that you're not surrounded by fools. When inspiration does not come to me, I go halfway to meet it. Love and work and love, that's all there is. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. In the small matters trust the mind, in the large ones the heart.